Hello. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everyone, for a little bit of for your patience. We have some technological issues, tech issues. So this is the final, welcome everyone to the final All Children Reading, a grand challenge for development webinar in observance of International Week of the Deaf People, celebrated across the globe. We are really delighted to have you join us. I can see different names, a lot of people in the chat. They're here just to give you just house rules. You can, if you, we will wait until the end for you to make any comments or any a question. So my name is Josa. I work for USAID. Office of Diversity, Equity, and Accessibility. It's been 7 years that I've been working as a representative, and then I was also a representative for this ACR event. ACR, it's what we said for the All Children's Reading, and then we've been partnering with the USAID. Just a minute. We have wonderful partners within the three organizations, USAID and then ACR. And I want to thank everyone here who was involved and as an organization, probably as an individual. And then, of course, many of the our organizations are in different countries, and we're really excited to see what had happened at the end. One of the focus that we have of the ACR focus trying to encourage the development of literacy for all these children's. ACR supported this competition, and it began with we give awards to 4 different organizations in total. There were more than 1,200 children's language book between Africa and Asia. The 20% of these books, just the 20% were local sign language users, and they were produced in 9 different local sign languages. Malawi was one, Maui, Somalia, the Fiji Islands, Samoa, and the PNG. So there were different 9, Nepal among them, and there were different 9 sign language books. And there were, to help ensure these books were in high quality, the ACR also funded the development of technical standards in collaboration with the RIT and the NTID. During the COVID pandemic, the subject matter experts codified these standards and developed complementary virtual training modules and disseminated this to all awardees in these different countries who were producing books despite the many lockdowns and travel restrictions that they were put on. So all these books will talk about their stories, one of the determination and probably the perseverance while doing this. These standards, the books produced using these standards and the inclusive education programming they strengthen are the focus of today's webinar. To help our begin with books awardees and their collaboration and co-learning while doing this work, these awardees were included deaf partners that talked about, and then the innovators presenting for us today are members of our Sign Language Storybook cohort, led by RIT's National Technical Institute of the Deaf with the funding from All Children's Reading. So we are presenting 3 different presenters. One of them is Kurz. He's one of the awardees and authors of the standards of the RIT and NTID. And then we have 2 other members who are involved with the sign language and storybooks. There are deaf as well who were also working in They have worked many sign language books as well, and they're local partners, and they're trying to disseminate the books in the different schools in the area, making sure that all the deaf children, get the access they need and their families through these books. One of them is Michael Vea. He's an instructor of the La Salle College of Saint Benilde in the Philippines, and the other person is Sekerani Kufakwina. He is an advocacy committee chairperson in the Malawi National Association of the Deaf, known as MANAD. During their presentations, I encourage you to put your questions in the chat. We'll try to respond in the chat at the end of our webinar. And our first presenter is Sekerani, who will share with us MANAD's vision, the Deaf Association in their country, and how the vision for improving the reading outcomes for children who are deaf in Malawi. And let's welcome Sekerani.
Thank you very much.
Just a minute.
Greetings, everyone. Can continue? Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. I feel so much honored to be included in this webinar today and make this presentation to you all. I want to share with you some interesting strides that we've made through this support. Before I continue, I want to introduce myself. I'm Sekerani Kufakwina. I'm representing the Malawi National Association of the Deaf, and I was the lead for the implementation of the All Children Reading project in Malawi. So we are one of the beneficiaries that got funds from the ACR project. So we got a grant whereby we managed to disseminate the materials and also train the beneficiaries on how to utilize the content. So this work, we're not doing it alone. We had to partner with another organization known as Ekitabu. So also following the standards that we are given for us to produce these materials. So today I'm so happy to share with you how the training we got helped us to transform the education of deaf children in Malawi. From the time we are partner to the activity that we're doing under the Begin With Books, we managed to produce 50 materials or 50 books. So as the deaf community, we are part and parcel of the process, and we're trained on how best we can produce these materials. From that time, the training that we got helped us to understand the key concepts that are needed to develop these materials. And it also helped us to be strengthened on how best to write proposals. So in this case, we managed to submit our proposal to ACR again to get a grant on the name of the project was Sign Language, promoting sign language books. And the focus of the project was how to make sure that the books that we developed could get out to the users, for example, teachers, parents, children who are deaf, and many more in the schools and communities. After we finished developing these 50 books, we're supposed to find means and ways on how these materials could reach out to our beneficiaries. So we had to use different mechanisms to achieve that. So one of it was to provide trainings. So we conducted 6 workshops in total. Through these trainings, we were able to reach out to 64 caregivers. and also 56 parents of children who are deaf, and 36 teachers. These people were trained on the utilization of the content. For example, we had to procure the devices like tablets, and they were loaded with content. So we're training them on how they could utilize the devices and also access content from these devices, and also the methodologies or pedagogies on how they could utilize this content when teaching deaf children, because they wanted them to have a clear understanding on how best they could utilize these materials. And we were also planning to have, we also produced the episodes under this project because we wanted to make sure that most people in Malawi are able to get the content that we produced. So we are working in partnership with our national television station, Malawi Broadcasting Corporation, to have a program on national TV whereby we'll be able to air out the episodes, and so that our people should be able to learn and see what we produce. So ladies and gentlemen, shortly, we will see a video, a promo video that was developed to mobilize people in Malawi to get ready for the upcoming program that we want to have on the TV. That's the sign language episodes, the Malawi sign language episodes. So let's watch the episodes. It's not long. It's about maybe 2 minutes. Be patient. Wait for the episodes. It's coming.
Coming soon. What is coming soon? It's a new program in Malawian Sign Language.
Jowa, imba, omba manja. Bwerani muzaone nyama zikuvina.
A new program is coming, and it's meant for children of diverse backgrounds to enjoy stories in Malawian Sign Language, and everyone can enjoy it.
I hope you've all enjoyed it. So I'll continue with my presentation. So we are not only using TV alone.
Ndagi.
Ibwere.
Ndagi.
Ibwere.
Dzina langa ndine Sekerani Kufakwina. Ndipo saini ya dzina langa ndi imeneyi.
Dzina langa ndine Esther Hara. Ndipo saini ya dzina langa ndi imeneyi. Ndipo tikupatsirani pologalamu yatsopano yotchedwa tiwerenge mu chiyankhulo chogwiritsa ntchito manja.
Pologalamuyi ikukufikani kuchokera ku bungwe la Malawi National Association of the Deaf, MANAD, ndi thandizo lochokera ku bungwe la All Children Leading, ACR.
Lero tili ndi nkhani ziwiri zomwe zili zosangalatsa kwa ophunzira a makalasi ang'onoang'ono a ku primary, komanso nkhanizi ndi zosangalatsa kwa wina aliyense.
Poyamba tiphunzira mawu atsopano komanso masaini ake. Kodi mwakonzeka?
Zochita ng'ombe yozizwitsa. Mawu atsopano maso a o maso
Well, I hope you've managed to watch these two scripts. And because of time, I'll just rush through my presentation. So I think I've already explained a lot of what we've done so far. But just to add on what I've already said, for the first time in Malawi, we managed to conduct the Malawian Sign Language spelling competition. This has motivated a lot of partners to work with us. So we've managed to form up a memorandum of understanding with the National Spelling Bee organization so that we should continue having deaf people participating in the national spelling competitions. Because for a long time, hearing learners were able to participate in this competition, but deaf children were not included. But this time around, we want to make them be part and parcel of the National Spelling Bee competition. And through these activities, we've also strengthened our collaboration with our different stakeholders, for example, the Ministry of Education. And it was also strengthened in our lobbying and advocacy work as an organization to improve the education of learners who are deaf in Malawi. And these materials have also improved the education of learners who are deaf in Malawi through making them access content that they could not be able to get before this intervention was made. For children who are blind, there are a lot of materials that are provided for their education, like printed materials in Braille format. But for deaf children, there was nothing. So this has been like a groundbreaking initiative that has given deaf children a chance to have access to materials. And it has also empowered us as a deaf organization and the deaf community to strengthen our work on the ground on how we can collaborate with other partners to improve education. And what I could only say now is thank you, ACR, and also RIT, and Chris specifically, for working with us, for supporting us, for empowering us, for the skills that we've invested in us. This has really helped us to achieve what we've managed to achieve now as a country. Thank you so much. Now I'll give over to Chris. Thank you.
Hello. Everybody can see me all right? I'm Chris. My name is Chris Kurz, and I am a professor at the Rochester Institute of Technology. I'm grateful to have this platform and the opportunity to share with you today the work that I've been involved in for 3 years from now in developing the standards that we'll be looking at today. And today I want to give you an example of how this whole idea came into being and what led us to the state that we're in at this moment. Okay, now that I've got my slides up, let me talk about how we got where we are. We actually began in 2020 when COVID hit. And with the pandemic, we decided that we would put together what we call the Sign Language Storybook Cohort, or SLSC. And as a cohort, the SLSC consisted of awardees of ACR, USAID, and various stakeholders who were interested in engaging on sign language storybook development. So that was the work of the SLSC, was to gather together and review the variety and many issues that arise as far as the needs that we have for producing these materials. So we decided that we needed to have some sort of a standard that would provide a guideline, a flexible guideline for those who are developing storybooks in sign language for deaf centers and deaf individuals to be able to access and read. We're very excited to show some of the work that we've been focusing on over the last 3 years today. And I'm going to lead you to my screen. You'll see the slides that I'm sharing here. I've got 3 different sections here of resources. In each of these sections, you can find information on this project. The one on the left you'll see is a YouTube training video collection. There you'll find videos that will provide trainings because we recognize the need to have some sort of an in-person training. However, due to COVID, that was not possible. So we pivoted and we placed our trainings online for access. So people could use this link on the left to access our training videos on YouTube. This is what it looks like when you land there. These are the training videos that we created during COVID and shared out for those within the cohort to review, provide feedback, and provide voiceovers for these videos as well. Now that leads us to the guidelines that we developed. We worked on developing guidelines that would highlight the important considerations and elements to include. And you'll see a list of some of these guidelines and the elements of our standards on the slide here. We have a total of 12 standards for sign language storybooks, focusing on how it would impact users of these books in their use and learning of sign language. We go through here the translation process. We talk about developing new stories, and we have various tips and strategies that we provide that help to clarify the guidance and how to align what you're developing with the purposes of storytelling. So this story development has been encouragement to include, for example, more deaf characters so that deaf children are able to see themselves highlighted within stories and feel that they have some sort of a model that they can identify with. And now we also wanted to make sure that the framing was appropriate for deaf individuals, and it's not all about how you can learn to hear, but to highlight the shared experience and background of individuals and organizations who are deaf. So we also looked at how we could provide some guidelines for the development of these stories and how you can present them in sign language, how you can also have the readable text to go along with them. And these standards are available for you to use. They are accessible guidelines. They are licensed as far as the ability for you to use them to produce additional materials for deaf children so that they can access storybooks. And this can be produced and developed at a lower or no fee so that, again, the children can have access to these storybooks. And all of this information is covered in the guidelines. The SLSC produced the guidelines, which is quite a robust gathering of guidelines to use. We also have looked at how you can have a visual reference guide. So we took the printed materials and we developed videos that highlight each of the elements of the guidelines so that we can have that accessible for visual users. So again, we now have, in addition to the text-based reference, we have the visual reference that is signed in International Sign Language. And that was done to increase the accessibility for a global population. Now, these videos have captions. They do have, as I said, the sign language with the captions, so they are fully accessible. They do have voiceover options as well. Now, on the WAY platform, the World Around You platform, you can find our YouTube videos hosted on that platform. All of the information, the links and everything is contained in the guidelines with live links so that you can jump directly to resources. For example, we have a YouTube video that talks about the visual reference. If you'll give me one moment. There we go. This gives you a sample of one of the YouTube videos that's available to everyone to review and learn about the 12 lessons that we have regarding storybook development. And again, all of these have captions. If you aren't able to follow the International Sign Language, they do have English captions. And we encourage you also, depending upon what country you are in, if you would like to take these and translate them into your own written language, please do so. You do have license to do that so that they can be translated and be made accessible to those who are reading your country's language. And we definitely, again, do encourage you to do that because there's a lot of good information in these videos. All right, give me one moment to switch out my screen. Okay, all of these resources are currently available. You can take a look at them and see what's there. If you'd like to look at the guidelines that I've been talking about, those actually have been released as of just 2 weeks ago. So they are accessible. They are accessible at no charge to you, and we are happy to share them with everyone. This QR code will take you to the guidelines. I'd suggest if you have a mobile device on you, go ahead and click that code right now to grab it and link you to a PDF of the guidelines that you'll be able to download onto your device. And I'm going to give you just a moment to go ahead and capture that QR code so that you can access the guidelines. So we're thrilled that we now have this resource, these guidelines that again are purely guidance, but they will help to increase accessibility for deaf children across the globe. And these guidelines have been made possible through collective efforts of a variety of organizations who've been involved and shown diligent work and support in increasing this accessibility of storybooks for deaf children worldwide. And I'm very grateful to everyone who's been involved for your support, your feedback, for the editing that's been done, for all that we've been doing over these past 3 years. I'm very grateful for all of that. And I'm excited now to have a tangible element that we can provide to others in the form of the textbook materials for the guidelines as well as the video guides. And we look forward to you using them so that you can host your own discussions in developing your own materials. So now that the standards have been released, we encourage you to use them, review them, discuss, and implement. And again, I want to thank ACD for all of their support in making this entire project possible, interpreter correction, ACR. And we encourage each of you to utilize these. We have content in 9 different sign languages currently, and we are not done. We expect to see this project grow, and we look forward to seeing additional languages added for deaf children in various countries to have greater access to storybooks. ACR also has supported revamping of the storybook platform that we utilize so that you can get in and use the XPub for an official view to be able to download and use these resources without having to have live internet connection. And at this time, I believe it is time for me to turn it over to our next presenter, who will be Michael Vea. Michael's from the Philippines, and I'm going to turn it over to him at this point. Thank you.
Yes. Hello. Are we ready? Now I'll share my experience while working with ACR. And then I was also in the program for the last 3 years. And then I came across with ACR through Chris, and then we became partners to do this great project. My name, let me introduce myself. My name is Michael Villa. I'm from the Philippines. Ovea, I'm also deaf, and I'm an instructor or a teacher in a deaf college. And then I would like to talk about 3 things that I work within the project with Chris. We talked about how to make quality storybooks. And the ACR and Chris, we all work together, and we were discussing the importance of what or how to make a visual storybook for kids in the Philippines that they have a great quality. First, we create the story. It took us, we have around 200 stories that we developed in 2 years. Once we created the stories, the next step was trying to translate everything in Philippine Sign Language, the FSL. And that's the challenging part, to do all those translations, because we were not just translating for just to have a mere translation. We just wanted to make sure that all sign language that we use, all the vocabulary, is the one that we use in the whole in the Philippines, and we needed to do some research and to establish some guidance and the gloss that we were using. So we bring signers who were guiding us on how to do this in a way that will access everyone. It was access by everyone. And then we need to get illustrators. And so we bring over some illustrators that will look into how the stories will have visual support with the illustrations that will come. In regards to videography, we needed to work on how to make it on time with the videos and the illustrations, and how we are gonna, for example, dress up, because in the Philippines, we're having problems to have these videos done due to the lockdowns after the pandemic. So we needed to get a studio to get all these videos done, and it was kind of a challenge for us due to the lockdown. Once the lockdown was left, and then we were able to do this, we needed to work on the videos, and then we needed to also upload all those videos, and then we were talking about over 150 different stories. So once we do that, we needed to sit down and we needed to work with the different ACR projects. We have the active books, and then we try to encourage the parents and the children's to share and read these books. Also, we needed to work with the story books, and then just try to to disseminate out in the schools to the different teachers and everyone who was involved in the deaf children's education. So we started with the Begin with Books production. We did all signing, this translation in Philippine Sign Language, and some of the stories that we used, it was stories that we created, and then we work with the SLBA. That's the dissemination that we use for the sign language books in action. And that project was started back in January and until July 2023. Much of the educators and deaf students were really happy to have these books in their classes, and the educators just realized that these books have different sign language signs that they can use in their rooms, and then learn all together with their deaf students. And then now talking about the ACR Chris and then KJ, they came over to the Philippines and they helped us on how to continue the project. And then we met with the World Vision partners, and we were trying to envision how we're going to work together as an organization to have this, and then probably became partners to continue the development of these stories and dissemination of these stories in the Philippine Sign Language. And then we're hoping to become partners and continue on this endeavor. So as an organization, what we're hoping to do for a near future is to learning what we learned from the developing of the stories books and stories. Now we would like to probably add other stories that they are outside and that we as Philippines don't know. Probably the deaf will start writing different stories, so probably translating these stories into the Philippine language, the different languages that we have in the Philippines, to help the parents support their children at their homes and learning, how to use the language through the media. Probably start to disseminate this through Facebook, among others, and that became skill in their own sign languages. One of the goals is to continue developing new learning materials for deaf students in the Philippines. And our goal is to encourage deaf students, the young ones, to grow up and probably be more became strong readers by doing this and by using all these materials. And now I came to the end of my presentation, and then we'll continue with Erin.
Hi, everyone.
Yes, okay.
That's kind of a tough act to follow. It's great to be with you all today. Michael mentioned I'm Erin Williams. I'm a program manager with All Children Reading and have been working on these projects with our awardees for the past, I guess it's 3.5 years now. And our marker for that, as Josh mentioned in the beginning, was the onset of the COVID pandemic. So you can imagine the grand plans that everyone had, the hard fought proposals that were written, the budgeting, everything that was done and submitted, and then COVID stopped everything. So the work you've seen today, I really had an inside look at how it was produced, working with the different grantees and seeing their dogged determination to persevere, to find a way to work virtually when this work is best done in person. And you can see there's been just tremendous collaboration, great talent that has been pulled together. And this is just a fraction of the Sign Language Storybook cohort. There are also other members that didn't present today, but have contributed in countless ways. And we're really grateful for them. So thank you for joining us today. I'm looking in the chat for Q&A. If anyone has questions they want to drop in there. I did see many accolades, which I thank you for, and I pass that on to the presenters. Because I doubt you were reading the chat while you were presenting. But if anyone has a few questions, we have some time here. We could direct that to the panelists. Just please drop that into the chat and I will be happy to moderate that and we'll get those answered for you. Sorry, each of the teams have different YouTube channels as well. And they have Facebook pages and you can see a lot of their materials there. Okay, I'm seeing some questions coming in. I'll read these off as they come in. They're typing them out. Okay, we have one question here. Did the guidelines account for different local variations in sign language across the country? Chris, I think maybe we could direct that one to you, having that insight from working with the regional teams.
Yes, do you mind repeating that question?
Sure. Do the guidelines you've produced account for different local variations in sign language across the country?
That's a good question. Yes, we actually have many considerations where we've had input from DPOs, from local organizations on the ground, all the way to national organizations of individuals who are participating in research of sign language. So we did gather many stakeholders in consideration of that, and it's actually how we built these standards. And again, we do encourage you to take these and translate them so that they resonate with your local context. And we have made the guidelines available for you to take those and to customize them according to your local needs. Yes.
Thank you for that. Any other questions you'd like to put into the chat? Please feel free. We'll also be sending out a recording, and there are lots of links in the chat as well.
I think Mo has a question. I think it's Mo is deaf.
Sure. I see Mo is raising her hand here.
Yeah.
Would
He
you like
is
to type
deaf.
into the chat? Okay. Come on camera as well, if that works better.
He prefers to sign. Just a minute. I know a little bit of ASL.
Sure.
Let me add as a spotlight so I can see him. So thank you for your presentations. Perfect. Thank you all. Thank you for your presentations. I was really excited regards to storybook videos and the reading. I think that's a great idea. It's a new idea. I'm from India. And then I teach sign language, Indian sign language. And then I was wondering, I have a question in regards to India, because as you know, we have a big population of deaf children in different villages. And then a lot of them, there's no way to probably disseminate these storybooks to them. And then I'm wondering if you could have like kind of a picture storybooks for them so they can use them, because they don't have the capacity to get those video storybooks. So do you have any idea in regard to this? Because they live far away from the city, and they don't have any type of devices, electronic devices among them. Go ahead, Erin. Or Christopher. Oh, yeah.
Would also say, Sekerani, you may want to add something here about your experience in procuring tablets and trying to get those to rural locations, because this is not a problem or challenge unique to India. It's many places.
Yes, I just want to respond to that question by sharing my ideas. So my response will be very short. We all know that the challenges are similar worldwide, but we're trying to find different means and ways on how we could address these challenges step by step, slowly, but hoping to get there. So it's not possible like we can achieve everything and address all these challenges at one go. Not possible. It will take time. So we have to understand that the process is long. So we need to be patient and take one step at a time and find different means and ways on how we could be addressing these problems. No matter how small or how little intervention is being made, but we're hoping that in the end, we might be able to address these challenges. So to find different ways and means on how we could try to solve these challenges. Maybe Chris, you want to add something? because he's the one who was doing a lot of work and partnering with many countries. Chris?
Yes, the issue is very similar across the globe, where we have strong internet for some. It can be great resources, but we do know that there are many people out in more rural areas or places that don't have that technology accessible to them. They may not have the televisions or the iPads or even the internet connections, and that does pose difficulty. So the strategy needs to come into play here as far as how you're going to strategize making this work. If it's something that you can load the storybooks onto some device, a USB or something that can then be shared, maybe utilize some loaner device that could be shared along. There are different ways that you can get creative about how to disseminate this. You could engage deaf clubs, place devices at deaf schools. You just really, you need to come together and strategize locally as far as the best way you can begin this dissemination and then support its continued growth. But I'm confident that with some creative thought, this can be done. As we've seen, we've had the storybooks that sometimes are turned into videos. And if you're using the video rather than the storybook, you obviously do need some sort of technological device. And that does pose a challenge that will have to be looked at locally.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Great.
if I could
This is Mo.
add to, go ahead, sorry. I would just add one more thing that I would emphasize, just in my experience working with the grantees, is that open source materials have so much power behind them. And I think one of the things we're looking at is how do we adapt what exists out there that we could either use a gaming app or some kind of offline books that we could push out also to parents' phones. We know a lot of people have phones, but how do we then get those on parents' phones? So we can also introduce parents to sign language to get hearing parents involved in learning that, communicating with their children, and adapting what is already available and created to make sure that it is accessible for sign language, and then push that out to different countries. So there's been some exploratory work on that already. So I just say stay tuned, but we hope to have see growth beyond books into gaming apps and other materials that we think families would really uptake and use. All right. We have a couple questions in here. Some questions about different platforms we could use. I'll drop that into the chat. One of the other questions was around if any of the countries involved have approached TV companies. Sekerani, that probably would be for you to answer. Maybe you could speak to the relationship you've had with the Malawian TV broadcasting station. And then if anyone else would like to add, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. That's a good question. I will just try to explain how we've managed to work together with the TV station to make sure that the work that we've produced is beamed on the national television. So we managed to approach the national television in our country, Malawi, and we explained to them what we are doing under this project and what materials do we have. So as we've said, as we heard already, that we are using different ways and mechanisms on how we are supposed to make sure that these materials are disseminated to the public and are being used. Apart from training the parents and disseminating the materials in other ways, we had to approach the TV station, and we had a fruitful discussion, and we also discussed on the time frame on how we should do, on when we should start beaming out these materials on the TV, and they accepted the proposal, and we're just looking forward to have them on TV. Thank you.
A few minutes remaining. I'm going to scroll through the chat here. Are you able to share samples of how you incorporate sign language into storybooks, such as the Filipino sign language example? What does it look like on the page? And are there guidelines for best practices like the image size, background color, et cetera? So I think this is about the standards that you created, Chris. I believe there's some samples in there, but maybe you'd like to go into a little more detail on what type of guidance you can find in the standards around sizing, resolution, et cetera.
I apologize. Do you mind, you were talking about the guidelines, looking for a little bit more, some
Yeah.
further information?
Yeah, so could you maybe expand on what is in the guidelines? So we have a huge document, about 100 pages, but I believe there are images in there that show different types of sign language videos being incorporated into different styles of books, different layouts, as well as guidance on like resolution and the images themselves, background color, etc.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, sure. The guidelines do show what is currently available across the globe. They look at a variety of examples so that you can get the idea of what's available and how you might be able to take it and adapt it into your own context. The guidelines also do include multiple tips and strategies and suggestions or considerations as far as developing those actual storybooks. The technical part is in there because that is a large concern when you're looking at developing the videos. You're looking at the file size on videos, and that can really grow exponentially very quickly. And you want to look at how you can minimize file size. So that is discussed in the guidelines as well, about how you can maybe do a condensation of your file size, compress it so that it's a little bit easier to disseminate. We also look at the language leveling and how you can determine if the language that's being presented in sign language is appropriate to your target audience, depending upon their age and their skill and knowledge level and their language levels. So it really is critical to have all that information. It's in the guidelines if you're looking at translations, if you're looking at news stories and considering how those could be matched to your language leveling. Those are in there again, both in print and sign language form. And there's a bit of a difference depending on what you're doing as far as how you're going to look into the stories and how we would recommend those being made. So really, if you take a look at the guidelines, you'll see in there that there are a great deal of samples. There are many examples you can take a look at and pull to discuss amongst your team and your organization. And you can go back to them, review them, and continue the discussion just to ensure that the storybooks that you are developing are actually accessible for these deaf children who will be using them.
Great. I think we have time for one or two more questions. Michael, I'd like to direct this one to you. It's about how you manage open source material to find that you can really assure the quality and the suitability of content for young children. And I know that you've created content in Filipino Sign Language and you've also adapted some. Could you speak to how you ensure the right quality is there and that it's appropriate for children?
Yes, definitely. Here in the Philippines, it can be a challenge sometimes when we're working on the translation, especially into FSL. And that's because there are some variants that we find depending upon location in the language. And so we have to discuss as a team what we're going to do with that and come to consensus on what we're going to produce for deaf users. Are we doing this for general use or are we using it for a particular subset of our population? And so we had to sit down and discuss what we wanted to do as far as developing it in as broad standard a way as possible. Sometimes we also open ourselves up to feedback from deaf signers and we'll request that feedback from them to see what they think about the way that we've translated materials, if it seems accurate. And then we'll consider their feedback and get those different perspectives so that we can grow and improve the product. Another thing that we do is sometimes we will look at young deaf kids. I had one deaf family who had a son was deaf in the family, and we showed it actually to him to see if he understood it. And we took his feedback in it so that we could ensure that we were matching and leveling to the appropriate language of the child. So, and as was mentioned, we do work to provide language in various levels so that we can accommodate a variety of users.
For that. Well, again, I'm hearing some great feedback in the chat, and you'll see that in the transcript later. And thank the presenters for all of their work. It's well received by the audience here. I know we have a hand raised, I believe, for UBS Deaf Ministry. If you'd like to come on screen and ask your question, we have about 3 minutes.
Yes, I want to ask, most of the Bible societies have connections with the local deaf associations in their countries. So I am asking if we look at these videos or these guidelines and we need further help or practical, guidance. Is there any contact person we can connect with to be able to get that help we need?
This is Chris. I actually just typed into the chat. You want to take a look at that response there. So I dropped my email in the chat. So if you want to contact me, feel free to use that.
Thank you.
Now that's a great question. And I think one of the things that we've found is there's a lot of appetite for a continuation of a sign language storybook cohort. Had a lot of members, and there's always more that I think would appreciate being part of a network like this. So it's wonderful to make everyone's acquaintance today, to get connected, to have these resources available. I thank each of the presenters for working with us and for all of your work to really innovatively address what are seriously some grand challenges that we found. And I also just would ask that you please reach out to us and look on our website, allchildrenreading.org. You'll find that. And we will also send out a recording after this for those that are registered and attended or were not able to attend. So thank you for joining us today. Have a wonderful afternoon or morning. Thanks.